Hello, my excellent language learners. I'm Dr. Gloria Steeling with another exciting lesson on the American English language and culture. Today I'm at the Burkle Estate, and you can see behind me this sign, the Slave Haven. This was part of the Underground Railroad. I was on a tour of the Slave Haven. This is an estate. I'm just going to pan around behind me so you can see what's left of it. You can see these magnolia trees behind me. What happened here was that there was an undercover operation. A gentleman helped out with stockyards and his family was involved, but he wasn't just a businessman. He also was helping Africans to get to slavery. You'll remember from our content in our civics history classes that African Americans were forced to work, and unfortunately they were taken from their homes and someone had to do the work here in the US. We've talked about that many times. So this man was helping them to become free. Now, unfortunately, they had a fire recently, and you can see the damage here behind me that was done. When I came here in 2019, I went on the tour, and the house was beautiful, well taken care of. This house is over 100 years old, but now, after this fire, unfortunately, it's not looking as pretty as it should. You can even see the magnolias here behind me. These are magnolia trees. This was a way that the slaves who were running to freedom could find this house. You'll recall that slaves were not allowed to read and write. So they didn't know how to read street signs, but they did know about the crops. They did know about plants. So they could find this house based on these landmarks. So you can tell that these trees have a story to tell. Look at how big the trunk is, huge. I'm gonna stand next to it. So I can't even stretch my arm all the way around this tree to hug this tree. And you can see that the grass is quite tall. And there's some trash bins around because, you know, the people have to clean up after the fire. So this was an undercover operation, as I was saying. The Underground Railroad was all done in secret. And in order for the slaves to be able to escape, everyone had to be very quiet about what they were doing. When I took this tour, I found out that the slaves were smuggled in from the back door, around the back side. And what I'm pointing at back there is a little hut. Those were the slave quarters. So the Burkle Estate on which I'm standing, Mr. Burkle's family lived here, and on this Burkle Estate they did have slaves who lived in this house, but they were actually all part of an underground operation to smuggle slaves. I'm in Tennessee, Memphis, Tennessee, and as you know, we're not far from the river, the Mississippi River. Remember we talked about the largest or longest rivers in the United States? So he could take the slaves from his basement. They would be smuggled in the back door through a crawl space and into a root cellar or a basement. Then he would take them to the river where someone else could take them to Ohio. So now's a good time to look at your map and study your geography. You'll see how close Tennessee is, not only to the river, but also to Ohio. And so again, it was all done in secret. And this particular house was a main junction or a main intersection or a main meeting place. And the Burkle family here actually had a train master. The man who owned this house was a train master. So that means that he played a very important role. He wasn't just a small stop along the way. This city that I'm in, Memphis, Tennessee, is very big, and it was a huge industrial or commercial center for cotton. Remember we talked about how the slaves picked cotton. They put the cotton into giant bales or stacks, huge, like maybe 2 or 3 of me tall. And that was put onto a boat and put onto the river and transported. Later, cotton was put onto trains and transported. I'm doing this video because I intended to come here to show my students more about American history, to teach you more about civics as you become new Americans, and also because my students have directly given me feedback about their interest in civil rights. This is a very historic and important place, but look at what happened to it. Someone started a fire here. It hasn't been proven about whether this was intentional or accidental, but what I'm asking you, my students, to do is, if you are not registered to vote, please register to vote. I want you to think about the kind of country you want to live in, what kind of world you want to live in. Is this the kind of America we want to live in? If this fire was started and it wasn't an accident, if this fire was started because someone wanted to change history or burn it down or make sure that no one knew about the bravery of many people who risked their lives to help slaves, well, I can't even finish the sentence. I don't want to live in America like that. I don't want our history to be burned down and destroyed. I want it to be remembered because this is a special place. I'm just going to pan around to the sign. This is a sign that marks history in the United States. And you'll see my parents behind me. We're all here together for another event. But I want you to be able to see this sign, Burkle Estate. And you'll see that it talks about how Jacob Burkle operated the Memphis stockyards on this site. Let me get a little closer. And herdsmen seeking shelter and respite at Chelsea House found the stockyards a convenient place for their livestock. So your horses or your cows, or I don't even know what kind of animals, needed a place like a barn to stay in, and they needed something to eat. You had to feed them. So they could come here for that. Now here it says folklore. Now it has to say folklore. Why? Because slaves could not read and write. The Underground Railroad was undocumented. You didn't want to write it down. If you could prove it was happening, you could prove a way to kill someone for having broken the law. Remember, it was against the law to try to help with the anti-slavery movement. So none of it was deliberately recorded. Just by word of mouth and certain documents that were allowed to survive, do we know what happened. And of course, we have places like the slave haven here behind me. Look at the window, it's boarded up. It saddens me to see the place look like this, but this is real. Not only did brave people come here, that was real, but also what's happened to this place is real. So I'm asking you, please, if you haven't registered to vote, you can contact me. My information, as you know, is listed right here on my channel, and I, as your teacher, will help you to register to vote. I want you to think about what kind of place we live in, what kind of world, what kind of America do you want to live in? So think about that. If you are registered to vote, but your friends are not, have them call teacher. I will help register them to vote so that we can live in a place where homes like this are nice, like they were when I was here in 2019. We don't want them to be burned down. We don't want them to be destroyed. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for letting me be your teacher on YouTube. Have a great day.